Okay, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Widiya. I'm from English Literature 2, and I'm here. I will be present about a narrative interest from Emily Dickinson. Okay, before we move to stanza, and I will describe about psychological criticism. Yeah, psychological criticism, also known as psychoanalytical criticism, is the analysis of an author's unintended message. The analysis focuses on the biographical circumstances of an author, and the main goal is to analyze the unconscious elements within a literary text based on the background of the author. Okay, about Sigmund Freud. Yeah, psychological criticism stems from the idea of psychoanalysis. Yeah, Sigmund Freud had been an Austrian neurologist who lived from 1856 till 1939. He had found the theory to treat mental illness patients, and the theory had been known as the talking cure, where the patient tried to vocalize their subconscious motivations to gain further insight, and Freud believed the method released repressed emotions in order to heal the wounds and help cure the patient. Okay, in the story, the focuses on the three parts of the physic apparatus. The number one is the id. The id is defined as the part of the physic that stems from the pleasure principle, and the id stems from instinct, irrational behavior that caters to the unconscious. And the number one is the ego. The ego is the rational part of the physic, and however, the most of the activities done within the ego is unconscious. And the id and the ego work in harmony between the pleasure principle and the reality principle. And the number three is the superego. It's the center of the physic. It obeys the morality principle. Okay, a little about Emily Dickinson in this poem, A Narrow in the Crest, and then focuses on the animal world. And Dickinson assumes the position of a male speaker in this poem. This is one of the few poems that was published during Dickinson's lifetime. It was not Dickinson herself that published her poem, but rather her sister-in-law. Okay, we move to this poem, Neurofil and Grass, and then in this stanza, the first stanza, and in the opening stanza, Dickinson cleverly discusses the subject of the poem snake. This creature sounds harmless enough as it is introduced in line 1. The term narrow philo is a misuse of colloquial language, narrow meaning small in width as compared to length, and philo being a familiar term for a man or a boy with an undertone that's commonness. And then the choice of the word rights is also interesting because it sounds like quiet and right, but gives the impression that the snake is being carried or that it's floating along. In addition, the word can also mean threaten, harass, or tease, and definition fits the snake's reputation as a sledgehammer. Then the speaker goes on to ask readers if they too have ever encountered snakes, noting that these narrow fields always seems to take people by surprise. Again, in stanza 2, and the second stanza vividly describes the way a snake moves through tall grass, and then in line 1, the grass is compared to hair, the snake to a cow moving through it, and in the line 2, only part of the snake is seen, a spotted shaft. The snake is long, slender, and marked with spots, and it quickly climbs as it passes at the speaker's feet. After the flash of snake, the curse closes up and then is combed. apart again as the snake moves on. There is something invisible or ghost-like, and in the way the snake slithers along, and then for the creatures, the snake slither along is mostly unseen but evidently there. Okay, and in stanza 3, the snake like spooky or wet and marshy land, and corn grows best in hot, dry soil, so the snake's favorite environment is not suitable for growing corn. And then the speaker goes on to about of one of many childhood encounters with snake during a morning walk, and then speaker's detail about being barefooted is particularly provocative. And for the talk of the snake filtering across one's naked extremes would make most people drink. Okay, in stanza 4, in this lines, the speaker continues the description of the childhood encounter. While walking along, the speaker sees something that appears to be a whiplash or flexible part of a whip, unbraiding or coming apart. And then the lash of whip is often made of braided pieces of leather. So the speaker may have thought that the whiplash was integrating because it had sat so long in the hair sunlight. And then the speaker recalls being well received by the snake. The speaker bends over the sponge whiplash in order to pick it up when it is suddenly metamorphosed into a living creature that wrinkled or crumbled and folded and then filtered away. And oddly enough, a colloquial definition of the known form of wrinkle is a clever trick. It says the speaker was tricked by the snake, for it was not what it appeared to be. And in stanza 5, the poem's speaker claims to be familiar with some of nature peoples or animals, and they with the speaker, and then the speaker seems to feel real closeness to speaker seems to feel a real descriptors referring to this connection as a transport or a strong emotion of cordiality or of warm friendliness. And the last stanza, and snake appears to be due an exception to the opinion described in 5 stanza. And every encounter with a snake, whether a shared or solitary experience, is a moment shock and fear. Tiger breathing refers to an attack of panic in which the heart races and breathing becomes strained. Most people who have ever been startled can relate to the sensations of this description, and the final line contains a brilliant metamorph. For term zero at the bone, describe bone, chilling terror, and absolute nothingness. And the final stanza strongly suggests that the snake who is casually referred to as harmless narrow fellow in the first stanza and make possible the manifestation of description speakers who love all creatures cannot love these triggers, the snake in the grass. Okay, we move to the conclusion that this poem in Neurophil and the grass uses segment theory of the unconscious, and in this poem uses a male figure where a person is afraid of snakes and remembers whether he has previously met a snake or not and recalls. And Spitry has been introduced about the figure of a snake but in implicit language. And then in my view, snake is a creature that can come anytime and anywhere. And of course, people who see it will feel scared. Again, this is my reference to my presentation today. Okay, thank you. That's all for me. Thank you for your attention. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.